Hello there, people of YouTube land. Once again, it is I, the Zombie Messiah, and welcome to another quick review. This time we are going to be looking at Koei Tecmo's new action RPG, Nioh. Now, now, one of the now, where do I begin with this game? Other than the fact that it's an action RPG, which is pretty much Dark Souls if you had samurai. I guess I should start with one of the things that people have been praising this game a lot for. The stances system. In the game, you have three different stances that you can use for combat. You have high stance, which puts more emphasis on attack, allowing your attacks to be heavier and attack harder, but you use up more of your ki meter, which in this is the game's own version of stamina. Now, well, then you have your middle stance, which is more evenly balanced, and it also allows you to have a better block. Then you have the low stance. This is more for your quick counterattacks as soon as you successfully parry an enemy. Now, the combat in this game is actually a, one one of the most action oriented of any Souls type game that I've played. It, whereas most games of the Souls style tend to have more slow paced combat because you're trying to maintain your stamina. In this, everything feels more or flu everything more feels more fluid and lifelike, which in some ways actually makes sense considering that the team behind this game is Team Ninja, aka the creators of the Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive series. And so, this is easily recommendable if you are a fan of Ninja Gaiden or Dead or Alive, as well as any of the Dark Souls games, because, I mean, come on, this is pretty much just Dark Souls with samurai, as I said. Now, for the story. The story in this game follows a Englishman called William, who is on the search for a guy who is planning on leading an invasion of Japan in order to get this strange magical rock called Amrita. And the thing about this guy Kelly is he is able to command an army of yokai. Now, for those of you who don't really know much about Japanese folklore, yokai are monsters. And this actually leads to another one of the strongest aspects of Nioh, its monster design. In this game, you have various different monster designs, from regular zombie style shufflers to big hulking ogres that will love nothing more than to smash you into a puddle on the ground in front of them. Now, those of you who know about your Japanese and English history might notice some parallels between this game and the case of a a so a real life sailor called William Adams. Now, this guy was actually famous for being the first person to for being the person who set up trade negotiations between Queen Elizabeth I's Great Britain and Japan and Ieyasu Tokugawa's Japan. He was so influential to the Japanese that he was actually the first Westerner to be granted the title of samurai. and he was also uh, he was also an advisor for Ieyasu Tokugawa. In fact, his story has actually been retold countless times before this, mostly in the story and TV shows. Well, in the story and TV show Shogun. But anyway, enough about the historical context. Another thing that this game does well is PvP. Now, while there isn't a conventional PvP yet where another player can drop into your game randomly and start beating the shit out of you, you can find these graves throughout the level. If you're online, then chances are some of them will be graves of other players, and you can summon what's called a revenant. Now, revenants can actually be quite hard, but as a reward, you do get some really good loot from them. So there's the risk and reward dynamic when it comes to fighting against revenants. Plus, also they can actually be really good for leveling up. Now, unlike in Dark Souls, you do have special checkpoints that you can find throughout the areas, and at these checkpoints you can level up. Now, whereas in Dark Souls these were bonfires. In Nioh, you have shrines. At shrines, you can level up. You can trade equipment for more amrita, which you can then use to level up again. Or if you have a special item, you can actually summon a companion. You can actually summon another player to come and help you. However, uh, the only thing is this requires that the player who is joining has had to have completed the level once already, which seriously, for the second level, it must have been really tough for some people. But anyway, hey, that brings me nicely on to how the game is laid out. Unlike with Dark Souls, where you're put into a open world and you're just left to explore, and experience the story as it goes on, in Nioh, the whole game is mission based, meaning that meaning that you have a map screen with several different levels on it, and the idea is you pick the level that you want to go to, and then boom, you're there, and then boom, you're there doing the level. These levels usually consist of getting through hordes of yokai or rogue ronin, and then fighting a boss at the end. It can be seen as repetitive, although chances are you'll be too much on edge because of the difficulty of the game to really pay any notice. What else is there that I can talk about with this game? Oh yeah, the loot system. Like with other RPGs, this game has a loot system. The only way that you can really the only ways that you can really get loot is by defeating enemies, opening chests, or defeating revenants. And the loot has several different levels, ranging from white to purple. I think purple's the highest anyway. Eh, But but yeah, also yeah. So the idea here is to keep trying to find that little bit of loot that is better than the loot that you already have. Also, also while I've still got this in my mind, there's a there's a mechanic in the game which can actually be very useful called a key burst. Now, what this basically does is if you time your key burst just right, you will regain a large amount of your ki. This can be very useful, especially when fighting against yokai, since some of them have the ability to create a miasma on the ground that can slow down your ki regeneration. And your ki burst can actually disperse this miasma, making it so that it's harder for them to regain their stamina and easier for you to regain yours. Or there are also different weapon types in the game, from your regular sword to dual swords to spears and axes, and even the ninja Kasaragawa, which is like a farming sickle or a farming tool with a chain on the end. You can choose two. You can carry two regular weapons at a time, and you can also carry two ranged weapons. Range combat, I'd have to say, is kind of where I feel this game tends to suffer a little bit, because while it's while it isn't at while it isn't as complicated as other games, it does leave a lot to be desired, especially since with the reticle, it can be hard to determine whether you're aiming at whether you're aiming at an enemy's body or at their head. There have been several times when I've been using where I thought I'd get a headshot, but I ended up just getting a body shot and just doing a lot of damage instead of getting an insta kill. But anyway, that's really my only thing, as well as the fact of there not really being any any conventional PvP. Um, and also throughout the levels, you'll find small spirits. I've forgotten their name, which is annoying. But as you collect, but as you collect them, you can actually, well, as you collect them, you'll actually notice that they are wearing strange-looking hats. The reasoning behind these hats are that they give certain blessings. I mean, there's one that increases the amount of amrita you can get. There's one that there's one, and there's some that also help your combat. Also, there are some yokai, such as ones that are disguised as wolves, that you can know that while you can fight them, it tends to be a bit easier if you bow to them. These these mysterious yokai walls tend to hide some really good loot behind them. And however, as I said, Ed, you can fight them if you want. It'll just be very, very, very hard. And yeah, I think that's gonna be it for me talking about Nioh. It's very good if you're into the Souls games and you want a new experience with the playstyle of a Souls game. However, if you're new to a Souls game, this would also be a very good starting point due to the fact that it's a little easier than a game such as Dark Souls or Bloodborne. But anyway, that's gonna be it from me. If you liked what you saw, then please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This has been the Zombie Messiah.